When the Berlin Wall fell, people celebrated in the streets. As the dark shroud which had covered Europe for more than 4 decades was finally lifted, rays of hope spread to people in other regions that a new era of peace was possible. But busy as we were moving on with our lives and connecting with the world, from paging to texting to tweeting, we began to forget that the biggest threat of the Cold War, the nuclear weapons that had threatened our very existence, had not vanished, and their legacy is still causing victims today. Since their invention in 1945, nuclear weapons have twice been detonated over cities. In a few minutes, bright flashes enveloped the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, marking the beginning of the nuclear era. The citizens of Hiroshima and Nagasaki experienced the devastating effects of a weapon so terrible and sweeping in its destructive power that it could not be targeted to avoid killing massive numbers of civilians. A weapon unable to distinguish between a building and an infant. Survivors faced the trauma of radiation exposure. They faced injuries for which doctors had no cure. They faced a lifetime of stigma and prejudice, and the knowledge that the next generation would also suffer the effects of the nuclear fallout.
So I looked around and I saw the procession of ghostly figures. I say ghostly figures because they simply did not look like human beings. Their bodies were burned, blackened and swollen, and skin and flesh were hanging from the bones. Hair was standing up towards the sky, and some people were carrying their eyeballs in their hands.
In Kazakhstan, nuclear weapons continued to be detonated until 1989. The blast left a dark legacy of cancer and birth defects.
My mother died of stomach cancer. She was severely disabled. We realized the reason much later because my mother had 2 children before me who did not live up to 1 year, dying one after the other.
If a nuclear detonation occurred in a city today, international and national relief agencies would be helpless. The International Committee of the Red Cross has said that no appropriate response could be put in place by any state or humanitarian organization.
Neither the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement worldwide nor any international agency has currently the capacity to provide adequate assistance to the victims of the use of nuclear weapons. You know, logistics, training, and material is available around the world for weapons that are currently in use, conventional weapons, explosives, and bullets. But as regards the effects of nuclear weapons, particularly the radiation effects, this capacity hardly exists.
The detonation of a nuclear weapon would cause unparalleled environmental pollution. Cancers, birth defects, genetic damage, lowered immunity to diseases. These are only some of the potential effects of nuclear testing and nuclear fallout.
What makes catastrophic nuclear accidents truly monstrous is that the impacts cannot be cleaned or erased. The contamination created by radiation will impact not only those living now, but also future generations. There are no technologies capable of effectively cleaning up radiation.
In 1945, 2 nuclear weapon detonations generated a humanitarian catastrophe on a previously unimaginable scale. Today, with 19,000 nuclear weapons around, the chances of one of them being used either intentionally or by a human or mechanical error has increased exponentially. The other weapons of mass destruction, chemical and biological weapons, have both already been clearly banned by international treaties. The humanitarian effects from the detonation of a nuclear weapon should leave us in no doubt that nuclear weapons must be outlawed also.
Every existing nuclear warhead has the potential to unleash a humanitarian catastrophe and create immeasurable suffering for humans, the environment, and our societies. Civil society believes that it's time to seriously address the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons and how we can prevent such a catastrophe from ever happening again.